the mind will follow the breath, or the breath will follow the mind. And what is anxiety? It's when the mind is in some future worry or a past worry or something like this. It's not present. There's no anxiety in the present moment. So if I can teach them how to fall into the present moment through their breath, as the breath relaxes, the brain will relax and they'll drop into alpha. And then the mind will come out of the past or the future and drop into the present moment. And when we're present, there's no anxiety here.
Welcome to The Healing Cocoon by Urban Ascension. I'm Jacoby Gray, your host and healing advocate, bringing you transformational stories each week to inspire personal change in your life and help you feel more supported as you embark on the healing process itself. Through the study of coaching, kinesiology, holographic kinetics, meditation, Reiki, the chakra system, and many other modalities, I've learned how to release the blocks that were holding me back. Now I'd love to help you do the same. Deactivating your triggers and your traumas means you activate your happiness, so you can experience more alignment, connection, clarity, love, fulfillment, synchronicity, and success than you ever thought possible. So from dark nights of the soul to radical breakthroughs and rebirth, this is the Healing Cocoon podcast. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back to the Healing Cocoon podcast for another week. Today we're chatting with Dr. Samuel Lee, MD, a board-certified psychiatrist on a mission to help create a new global paradigm of mental health, one that is based on consciousness, energy, and truth, rather than labels, diagnoses, and symptoms. Sam is also my friend, yet another one of the incredible humans I did my yoga teacher training with in 2017, and he is an old soul who is here to change the world. Sam lives his life with a fierce bravery, not only treating psychiatric conditions, but his personal healing journey took him down the path of experiencing many of those conditions himself, so that he could arrive at his current position of knowing firsthand the best tools beyond the Western medicine he was initially taught to instigate healing and ultimate oneness. He's also a certified yoga teacher, breathwork practitioner, kundalini yoga practitioner, plant medicine practitioner and facilitator, and most recently, quantum morphogenic physicist. Sorry, I almost stumbled over that one. Quantum morphogenic physicist. Sam agrees with Einstein and Tesla that the future of medicine is frequency, and the future is now here. Combining all of his modalities, he serves as the medical director of Four Worlds International Institute and as the medical director of Transcendence Mental Health, where he's committed to helping consciousness re-remember itself through the activation of 12-stranded DNA. What is that, you might ask? Me too. And Sam's answer is so juicy that I don't even want to try and summarize it here. So we talk about that and so much more in this interview. This interview really lit me up from the inside out. It was so great to reconnect with Sam and all of his teachings and his wisdom. So I'm just going to jump right in. Dr. Samuel Lee, everybody.
This is like, I guess a psychic told me today, 99 lifetimes of preparation for this one. So I guess that's where it all started, when I was a big consciousness, and I decided I wanted to come down to humanity and send a little portion of my quanta in through the primal sound and light fields, through the 12D avatar crystal self, and into this 3D earth, one of the densest places in the universe, because I heard a call maybe that I want to experience duality, and I wanted to also help serve humanity, and to the original character of source consciousness field would once again cover the earth as the water covers the sea. So it felt like humanity had forgotten who they really were and what the original intention of source was. So I heard that call. And then I chose my parents, and I had a lot of lifetimes before this. I'm a ancient one. And then I came in, and then, and, all the lifetimes, which is happening simultaneously, has prepared me for this one. So I've been shown, in a past lifetime, I was a Tibetan monk, confirmed so many times. And that was that lifetime. And this lifetime, I chose to be this Asian avatar. And yeah, in this lifetime, how did it all get started? Well, I chose to allow myself to go through every psychiatric condition personally. So every diagnosis and label I went through personally, and then I became a
Do you
psychiatrist.
mean
And yeah,
ADHD, or like what are the labels are we talking about here? Like bipolar, or what is it?
great question. Yeah, which leads me into how it all got started. So, yeah, severe generalized anxiety. I mean, there was like 3 months where I couldn't lift my head or look anybody in the eye. A lot of religious programming, and so a lot of low vibration of guilt and shame, what people call schizophrenia. Had a bipolar, quote unquote, manic episode. That's how it all got started. I called off my wedding in a manic episode in Vegas, and I hit rock bottom. And that's when I found yoga. So, and that's when I met you. So that's how it all got
Mm-hmm.
started this lifetime. I was going down a pathway that was not going to lead me to my highest evolution or timeline, and was not meant for me in this lifetime. So the universe had to intervene and allow me to go through, block that road, and then push me onto a different timeline. And I guess I'm stubborn, so I only learned when I hit rock bottom. So yeah, went through every psychiatric condition, became a psychiatrist. And then, at that point, that's when the universe or my higher self decided to wake me up. And for me, that was going through a manic episode, which to me was like the most spiritual experience of my life, which gives me, it's very difficult to explain to people who've never been through one. But that's how it all got started. And I hit rock bottom. I was driving down the 405 in LA, bawling my eyes out. God help me. I surrender. And in that moment, I heard there's a yoga studio across the street. I had nothing. And it was like, go there and do 30 days of yoga in a row. And it was time. And so I went, and at the end of yoga class, I would feel some kind of peace. And the way I am is, if I find something, I go all in. And I found consciousness. And I don't know, maybe that was, 10, 12, 13 years ago. So that's how it all began. And I found yoga. I found the breath. I found peace. I learned that I could quiet my mind. I learned that there was more to me than just 3D. And that's when I went all in. Yoga teacher training. That's where I met you. Breath work like crazy, trips to the Amazon, doing ayahuasca, worked with all the plant medicines. And then most recently, I found quantum morphogenetic physics and the science of the 12-strand DNA. And the fourth, fifth, and sixth strand is what scientists call junk. It's not junk, it's potential. The fourth to sixth stranded DNA is the soul. The seventh to ninth strand is the oversoul. And the 12th to 10 to 12th strand is the avatar inner Christos self. So I've been going really, really hard on that. And that's really like my life's work now, is to share that with people, that you are who you've been looking for. Take a look inside, but like look inside where? To your inner intron potential DNA. And there's very specific ways to activate that, so that we don't need anything outside of ourselves, and we're sovereign and free, because we are free, we are free, we are free. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so many things going on in there. And obviously, as this huge consciousness that chose to come down to this very 3D dense planet, you came in as a baby, so you forgot yourself.
Yeah.
And you were then sort of had a lot of religious programming, brought up in a very religious household. So that was developing your sense of self as you were growing. And then I know you're an incredible pianist and a devoted musician, but as well, you had to become a doctor before you could even become a psychiatrist. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of years of like study and just kind of very, I suppose, society defining the direction that you were meant to go.
You got it.
So
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And so this break that you had, this manic episode, you were on that track at that point. Were there ever any whispers along the way of consciousness, or it really didn't happen until you called your wedding off and then suddenly basically detonated your life as you knew it and then found yoga? Was there any whispers in the background, or were you pretty asleep until that point?
Yeah, great question. Now I'm able to answer that by saying there's such a divine intelligence. The universe is mathematical. So for there to be love, there must be a choice. There's no force in source. For there to be love, there must be a choice, which means, if God is love, source is love, which means then that, a big guy on a Harley with a little girl, and he says, if you leave me, I'm going to do this to you. That's not love, because there's no choice there. That's fear. It has to be a choice. So I started learning as I retrospectively look back, like I chose to be born. I chose my mother's womb. I chose my father. I chose a specific set of circumstances on the day. I chose the day I was born. And on that day, the planetary influences were perfectly aligned. So Jupiter, I have a lot of Jupiter in my chart. All of these planets were perfectly aligned for success in my mission that I chose. And when I'm vibrating at a low frequency, the challenging aspects of those planets present themselves. But when I'm vibrating at a high frequency, the beneficial aspects. And so the religious programming, I chose my father to be a pastor because I knew that if I can deprogram all of those things, it's not only for me. When one monkey figures out how to drink a coconut, then all of them do. I can realign the quantum potential for everybody else who's born into my set of circumstances. And so I chose it along the way. And, the whispers were Jesus, because I was raised Christian. So I fell in love with Jesus at the age of 16, learned about unconditional love from my mom. It was definitely, a Christian version of that. But those were the whispers. And then I truly believe at the exact right moment, when all the planets were exactly aligned, when exactly the universe is mathematical, right when I was ready and able, there was an anointing that happened in that exact moment. So, I think there's such an intelligence. Consciousness is so intelligent. It knows even when a hair falls off my head, when a leaf falls. So I think there was a divine perfection of how everything happened. And then the whisperings were really just, the Christian whisperings, which I really believe I don't necessarily, I believe in love as my religion, but if you can find that golden thread of unconditional love in a religion, that can lead you. And so that's what I was hanging on to. And those were the whispers, that there is a love, and that love is the answer. And then at the right moment, when I was ready to open my mind, and ready to open my consciousness to more, and willing to have my paradigm blown apart, that's when it all happened. And so, I think there was definitely a divine force and higher self guiding me the entire way, an entire being of a family of beings which were whispering. And even one time I even heard an audible whisper of my name in one of my most difficult times, so kind of like in the Bible, Samuel. So there was definitely whispers, but very divine intelligence guiding, leading, and waking me up at the exact right time.
And that deconstruction wasn't just a religious deconstruction. You would have had to have deconstruct medicine and your practice. At that point, you had a thriving psychiatry practice, didn't you? Which obviously there are certain rules around what you have to do and be in order to maintain that. Like you were literally leveling your life to ground zero in a way.
Good point. Yeah. So 2 weeks before I became a partner at one of LA's biggest hospital firms, Kaiser Permanente. Once you become a partner, they got you. You're going to get pension and you're working to your 65. You don't even have to try. You're good. You're safe. So I was 2 weeks away from becoming a partner at Kaiser Permanente. And that's when I found consciousness, and I was meditating outside, and it said, today you are going to turn in your 2 weeks notice. And I said, hold up, come again. And
got chills.
Yeah,
I got chills.
I said, are you sure this is not my mind? And it wasn't. It was a voice called the intuition, which I've been trying to learn how to just follow that. And so that day I, put in my 2 weeks notice. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I just turned that in. And from that moment, I've been doing my best to quiet my mind and listen to my intuition and pray for the liberation of all sentient beings, fulfillment of the Emerald Covenant, creation of a new global paradigm of mental health, and show me what I need to see, tell me what I need to do. And I've been flowing with that. And paradigm blown apart so many times, blown away, like everything I believed in. Okay, whoa. So the social programming, the medical programming, the religious programming, all of that, like there comes a time where it blows away, and then I have to regroup for something new to manifest. Something must first de-manifest. So unplugging from all of those programs And sometimes that sucks, because when you unprogram and you want to level up, you have to literally, from your social life to everything, withdraw and make space for that. And then in that space and that quietness, refine what does serve me now. And, and every time my vibration changed, because when my vibration changes, everything changes. My friends, my job, my music I listen to, everything. So my paradigm has been blown and shattered apart so many times. But eventually I'll pick up. And I think one of the qualities I have in this lifetime is I want to know truth no matter what. So after I pick myself up, then I search for truth again. So.
Yeah. And so would you say that you're defined by a paradigm right now? Is there a classification for the paradigm you're living in, or are you just like fully quantum now?
Yeah. Good question. Yeah, I think my paradigm is always love, but what is love? That has evolved so much for me. I had my hippie stage where I was bare feet running around at festivals saying love and light, just unconditional love is my protection. And, that served me for a while, and that was cool. But, then it evolved. What is love? And so love is the cohesive power of the universe. It's what holds my atoms together, my cells together, my sanity together, my family together, the universe together. It's what holds everything, what holds humanity together. And so I also started learning true love is not blind. True love sees, it's aware. True love honors free will choice. But true love also is strong and has healthy boundaries. And so I started evolving this concept of love. So my paradigm will always be love, but what love is to me has evolved so much. And, and now what I really believe is quantum morphogenetic physics, which is you are who you've been looking for. And that there's a very specific, a lot of people will say like, oh, the great mystery, you'll never understand it. But actually this science goes very deep into the exact science of source. So I think it's really exciting time where science and spirituality are merging, and we're starting to realize, oh, wow, actually you can understand. If I had a kid, I would want them to understand everything and be aware. And so in the same way, this new wisdom, I call it eternal life wisdom, because original celestial human beings were never meant to die. Death is an inorganic process. So I call it eternal life wisdom. That's what's really I'm passionate about these days, and that's where I spend most of my time. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. There's so many tangents there that I was bookmarking in my head that I want to run down. But first question, someone who's struggling with, say, anxiety, who comes in to see you in your practice previously, how would you have administered to them as opposed to now when someone comes to you struggling with anxiety? What did it look like then, and what does it look like now?
Yeah, good question. When I was a psychiatrist in LA, I only had the tools of what I had. So, the Western psychiatric symptom is, oh, you have anxiety. Here's this medication that's going to numb your frontal lobe and block your second chakra and, numb you so that you won't feel. And that will help your anxiety. And, it often does. And I'm not saying it's bad. I've been on a psychiatric medication before, and it really helped me. But then, then you start gaining tools. And so yoga, breath work. So I would have to listen to that soul and understand, are they a new soul? Are they an old soul? Where are they at in their spiritual development? What tools from all of the tools that I had to learn? Because, I went through severe anxiety. I went through severe PTSD. And I allowed myself to do that so I could learn these tools. So I just have this toolkit, and, I might teach them the 4-7-8 breath. I might, if they're not at a point where they can even regulate their breath or their brainwaves because they're so caught up in their external environment, I'd have to really listen to, okay, how can we give them passive ways of getting into parasympathetic? All right, like foot reflexology, massage, Reiki, nature, putting your feet on the earth, right? So, and I'd really listen to them to see what their soul is saying. And then from my toolkit, I would reach in and then give them what they're ready to receive. And try to teach them exactly how to do that and empower them with the tools to quiet the mind through the breath. And so I think one of the greatest tools is the breath. The mind will follow the breath, or the breath will follow the mind. And what is anxiety? It's when the mind is in some future worry or a past worry or something like this. It's not present. There's no anxiety in the present moment. So if I can teach them how to fall into the present moment through their breath, as the breath relaxes, the brain will relax and they'll drop into alpha, and then their mind will come out of the past or the future and drop into the present moment. And when we're present, there's no anxiety here. So probably a breath work, and then depending on where they're at, I'd reach to them toolkit and give them whatever I feel intuitively guided to.
Yeah, so beautiful that you're one of these amazing human beings that has access to, I guess, all of the knowledge from the Western side of treatment. But now you've gone so far and remembered all of your universal knowledge for, I guess, what would have previously been termed like the Eastern side of things. But really, it's just universal law and knowledge. And it's so amazing that you just have all of this knowledge that you can bring together. And you are, as you were saying, at that meeting point between science and spirituality. Like you're actually the living, breathing embodiment of that. And it's so cool. All right, what is this DNA strand thing? Like, okay, as someone, I know that I have DNA, but I didn't know that there were strands that weren't acknowledged or that they was just seen as junk. So can you give us like a layman's breakdown of this exciting development?
100 with joy. Like, this is what I nerd out on. So I'm so happy that you asked that question. When I'm just going to go right into it. What scientists used to call junk DNA because they could not see it. They said 90 to 97% of our DNA was non-coding for proteins. Therefore, they labeled it as junk. That is false. Every human has the capacity for either 12 to 48 strands of DNA. And so there's been a lot of scrambling of the DNA and a lot of blank slating of the DNA. So there's been a lot of interesting on-planet and off-planet messing with the DNA Tower of Babel, all these other histories. And so the science goes really deep into the history of how this all happened, where it happened, but more importantly, what we can do now. And so it wasn't a war on consciousness, on drugs. It was a war on consciousness, because the truth is we are multi-dimensional. And so every strand of DNA is a bandwidth of frequency. It's a level of mind. It's a new level of perception. It goes so deep. It's also every color is a key code into a strand. So, red is first, yellow is third, right? The chakras. And there's not 7 chakras. There's at least 15. So with that being said, the language of our DNA is, in the beginning, God said, let there be light, and there was light. Sound and light and sacred symbols, which are sound and light dancing. So that way before, if you want to call it, a lot of ancient spirituality say Egypt is where spirituality began. But once you start activating your upper strand of DNA, your cellular memory will also release, and you'll start remembering. That way before ancient Egypt, there was actually a migration from Atlantis. Noah, Atlantis. Before Atlantis, there was Lemuria. Before Lemuria, there was the 12 original celestial human tribes. And they spoke a language called Anuhazi Mua, the first language ever spoken in this time matrix. So if you want to heal anything, go to where it first started, which is sound. And why not go to the first original sound in language, which is Anuhazi Mua? So as I chant this, these sounds in the morning, all the scrambling of the DNA, it's once again slowly lighting up the morphogenetic fields, or the blueprint of this 12-stranded DNA. And it's literally slowly reconfiguring my 12-stranded DNA. It's like laying one brick at a time, one brick at natural, gradual, progressively remembering, reactivating my galactic 12-stranded DNA, which is every human's birthright. So when I first found this wisdom, I was like, okay, this is nuts. It was blowing away all my paradigms again. And so I started just taking the 20-minute increments. I said, this is either true or completely false, because the level of detail they go into in the science, nobody can make it up. It's like the science, like to the detail, like down to the detail of source. And so it says that the 4th, 5th, and 6th stranded DNA is your soul, which is a carbon crystalline all these images talking about crystal body. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Carbon,
Okay,
crystalline.
because that's what
Not
we've got a lot of that coming through right now, don't we? The
Yeah,
crystalline energy.
yeah, yeah. So carbon crystalline. And then the seventh, eighth, ninth strand is pure crystalline matrix. So you become less dense and less dense. And the 10th, 11th, 12th strand, which is the avatar inner Christos, is your avatar inner Christ. And that's the true Christ consciousness activating the 12th stranded DNA. And that is a liquid light, pre-matter, less dense than crystalline body version of myself existing right now. And in this wisdom, you activate from 12 down. Instead of going to 6 Pleiades and working on 6, why not just go straight from? And so each DNA strand is also a galactic origin, right? So 12D is Lyra. Parts of 5 is parts of Halcyon, which used to be Pleiades. So this cellular memory starts come flooding back in, and we start to remember who you are. And the whole goal of all of this is freedom, sovereignty, not needing anything outside of ourselves, and to remind humanity that we have everything we need inside of us, and that we are who we've been looking for the whole time. And this is the science of how to activate your inner Christ, your 12-stranded DNA.
I'm interrupting this awesome chat to tell you about one of my all-time favorite creations, the chakra meditations. A potent combination of yoga nidra, binaural beats, and the chakra system. These meditations are designed to guide you into a deep state of relaxation where your nervous system can totally decompress and create the space for healing. I took my time crafting these meditation scripts because I wanted to make sure they resonated with every ounce of truth, transformation, and light I could hold. Each individual meditation addresses the specific attributes of each chakra and has a soundscape composed by source vibrations that is attuned to the frequency of each chakra as well. So from the main root aspects of prosperity, grounding, and belonging, all the way up to the bliss, self-reflection, and enlightenment of the crown chakra, each meditation is going to take you on an intricately curated journey to energetic freedom. You can download them via the link in the show notes of this episode or on our website, urbanascension.co. That's C-O, not .com, urbanascension.co under the chakra banner. So cool. And where did you even stumble across this information? Did you download it in ceremony? Did you find it in a book?
Yeah. So there is a book called Voyagers 2. And for me, though, I like to just say, after, searching Tibetan Buddhism, after searching this one, after searching this one, after searching Kundalini for 2 hours a day, after learning about, all of these different things, Christianity, I was a youth pastor, then I found this wisdom, right? So it's the culmination of truth seeking for lifetimes. And when I found this wisdom, I'm never, ever going to say, hey, this is better, this is worse. I'll never say that. But when I found this wisdom and, I actually started doing the practices, I knew for me, I can stop searching. So I like to say the wisdom found me as I continued to search for truth. All I have to do now is what I want to do. It's my joy to do it. I'm nerding out on this wisdom because it's for me, it's what's setting me free. It's the science of source. It's the culmination of all my lifetimes of searching. And so, yeah, in this lifetime, it just kept popping into my radar. There was opportunities for me to learn, and I would kind of not be ready for it yet. And then eventually, when I was in Tennessee, actually, I started listening to 20 minutes at a time. There is a book called Voyagers 2. It's outdated, but like some of the wisdom in there is good. And now it's starting to, when I first found it, not almost nobody was really talking about it, but slowly more and more I'm starting to see it's coming out. And people are starting to, more resources are starting to come out.
Like podcasts or other people who have access to the information are starting to share it, or studies, or what do you even Google 12-strand DNA?
Yeah. So it used to be called Keylontic Science, Keylontic, Keylontic Science. And so a lot of things are going to pop up there, but remember, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, because that's the timelines and all of these things are kind of off when you study that. And then there's also Dr. Jerry Duhenio Rivera is talking about it, and he's using bioregenesis. So you can look that up. I like to call it eternal life wisdom. But terminology is one thing, but energy can't lie. So you just really tune into the energy. And usually if you're ready for it, if you start reading it, it'll either be completely like, it does not resonate at all, or it will be like, okay, it kind of resonates. And so listen to your DNA, because it will tell you if this wisdom is for you or not. And it's a choice. So, Kalantic science, bioregenesis. I'm also creating a rapid 12-stranded DNA online program. So there's going to be more and more resources that are coming out, more and more and more. So.
Yeah, I already actually, I was thinking earlier how I already feel like I'm getting activated just talking to you. I'm like, oh, okay, there is so much coming online right now that in this transmission, which is really awesome.
There, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so excited you're actually creating a course on it. And you just mentioned that you're doing daily practices that's helping you unscramble that DNA. Is there something that you feel like sharing or comfortable sharing around what those practices are, or is that something you'll reserve for your course?
Sure. Probably my most favorite prayer in Anuhazi or technique is called the Source River Frequencies Prayer. It's in the Anuhazi language I talked about, and it calls in the eternal beloved councils, which is us. It's us on a higher level. And then it calls in not 4 elements, but it calls in the 5 eternal elements. Eternal life elements. And then it really is a powerful prayer for protection, powerful prayer for sanctification, a powerful prayer for activation. I mean, I've had people who listen to it when they sleep and they're like, dude, like, do you know what happened to me last night? Right? So it'll activate. It's a powerful prayer though, so I don't really recommend it for everybody. But if you go to like the Spiritual Psychiatrist on SoundCloud, I've made a version of mine. So happy to share that with people. That's probably a good place. And then also there's a technique. It's a foundation technique, and it's called the Maharic Shield, MAHARIC Shield, 12D, 12th dimension activating. It's going to start activating your Maharic Shield and your 12th chakra. And then it's going to start also repairing your DNA, and it's going to start doing a lot of things, calling in your avatar Christo self. It's a natural gradual thing. So those are 2 kind of fundamental things that I can share that have been very helpful for me.
That's cool. And is this a light language, that this particular language? Like, is it something that you just knew how to speak?
No, it's the oldest light language. So it's the original light language.
Original, the OG, the OG light language.
It's the OG language from which all languages came from. So you can look that up. Anuhazi, Anuhazi. Don't believe a word I say. Anuhazi Ascension Dictionary or Ascension Glossary, and then Anuhazi, and read it for yourself and see if it resonates. But it's the OG language from which all languages came from in this time matrix. And if your DNA resonates with the language, awesome.
Yeah. Did you actually have to apply yourself to learn that though? So when you were, say, a youth pastor, did you ever speak in tongues? Were you one of were you that type of religious?
No, I was like, suit and necktie, singing hymns. I get a little rowdy. With I was praise leader, so I would get a little into the praise, it definitely was not that holy roller type or the one to bust out in tongues. Although I understand it now, like people who are doing that are communicating with their DNA, and there's a lot of different galaxies out there, and a lot of different places our souls have spent time. And so sometimes when I do ceremony for people, they'll actually literally start speaking in different ancient forms of language. So I understand that that's a part of spirituality. But no, I wasn't. I was like a good youth pastor, church boy.
Yeah, I was just wondering because some people ask about light language, and I know that I open my mouth and I speak a light language, and I don't know which one it is, where it comes from, and I understand what I'm saying, but I wouldn't understand it if someone else spoke it to me. It's a really interesting thing, and so I'm still kind of like grappling with that, but I'll definitely look up the OG light language and
Cool.
see where that sits.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you do ceremony with people, what plant medicines are you working with? And are you working with things like ketamine, or is it more purely plant-based?
Yeah, great question. For me, anytime you take a trip, especially in the invisible world, like remember when I was going to Bali and you like
Hmm.
sent me that whole list of like Bali, I
Oh,
was going to
yes.
Bali, right? And by the way, that was money. That was awesome. I had the best massage of my life there at Carsa Spa. But anyway, you want to know like where am I going? I'm going to
Mm,
Bali. What airline am I taking? Who's going to be facilitating for me? How long am I going to be there? But more importantly, like why am I going there? And when you take off that eye mask, you want to be able to ask, where am I in the invisible world? It's so important in the invisible world. I feel to know like where am I going? How long am I going to be there? Why am I my sacred why? What is my intention? And then
mm,
all of these questions are so important. So in the medicine I facilitate called the Heart Protocol. It's a combination of 3 to 4 different synergistic blends, and I try to get everybody that I facilitate for to stop thinking in terms of medicine, but to start thinking in
hmm.
terms of frequency. So the medicines are just
Love
tools;
that.
they're just tools
Yeah.
to produce a frequency. So in this particular ceremony, we're intending to connect people to their fourth, fifth, and sixth stranded DNA or higher. So either their soul frequencies or their oversoul, depending on their soul contract and what DNA strand they're creating. So we want to connect people not to a plant, but we want to connect them to a frequency, which is their higher selves, because we don't need anything outside of ourselves. And so, how are we going to get there? Well, we're going to quiet the mind first with a GABA-based synthetic version of GABA, which is like the brakes of the brain. We're going to open the heart with serotonin and dopamine over a very specific, precise onboarding dose in 3 separate dosages. And then we might add a little element of the earth plant, but not enough to have an effect. And then at that time, we're going to put an eye mask on, playlist on, and then we're going to give an injection of what simply called ketamine. But
Hmm.
it's not it's now the mind is quiet, the heart is open. Now the ketamine, what the function of it, it's just a tool, is to quiet the rear default mode network with functional MRIs can show. So when the brakes are on, the heart is now radiating into, if you want to call it, frequency. And Heart Math Institute can measure 5 to 15 feet in direction, frequency coming out of the heart carrying information. And that sometimes can be a multidimensional frequency. And when we can radiate that, what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven is in your heart, right? There's a frequency where oneness happens and disease disappears, a perfect love that casts out all fear, a frequency where disease does not exist. And so, and then we quiet down the rear default mode network. In that space, there can be this whew, clear connection to what people call your soul. But it's a frequency, the fourth and sixth strand of DNA. And so, and then cool thing is we can record that person. So their higher self is going to be online, their lower self is going to be online. We can record as they download themselves. Why? And most importantly, why are we going there? I mean, that part of us is the most unconditional love. You can feel a love that I think everyone should have the opportunity to feel that love, that safety. Some people say it's the safest they've ever felt in their life. And so when I first dropped in, like, I was like, wow, like this. I mean, I've done all kinds of different plant medicines. This was different. It was like, whoa, whoa, like love. I am love. Wow, gratitude and love and safety. And then in that space, though, there's no time or space. So your higher self knows, yeah, we want to jump to door 30 and save the world, but it knows what door 1 is. So it's like it can show you, it's very intelligent. You can download yourself and record it with like, why am I here? What am I here to do? What am I supposed to do about this situation? Right. So it has access to information beyond space or time. And it's you. And
So
so you can
you're like a psychic for yourself in a way.
exactly,
You're a psychic for
exactly,
yourself. Yeah.
exactly. That's a great way of putting it, but a very loving psychic, and it's safe.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's a safe, consistent way to connect with your higher self. And that's one of the sacred contract that's been awoken in me, that I'm carrying that medicine currently. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so people who have this experience, let's say they've suffered from a disconnection of self, which I think is what mostly people are suffering from, which then leads them into anxiety or depression or any kinds of things like that. Once they have an experience like this where they touch that place of love, can they ever go back to the way they were, or is there an element of healing that's experienced and so they are now just that little bit calmer? Or is it like an absolute mind-blowing, oh my God, I'm healed and I'm fixed and I'll never feel anxiety again? Or is it incremental, or how does it work?
I mean, I think it's always incremental, but at the same time, once you know, you cannot not know. So during the ceremony, people are gonna be speaking things they've never said before. And remember, words become flesh. They're also paving new neural pathways in their brain, new ways of thinking, new ways of perceiving. And so it can serve as a really beautiful inflection point. But at the same time, yes, there can be massive shifts if there's an agreement for that person to receive that. So, I mean, we've seen, if the portal is wide open to a multidimensional frequency where disease does not exist, then if that person is ready to come into that reality, we can literally do healing, channel those frequencies into healing physical, emotional, mental, trauma, all different types of things. And so, I've had people come out of ceremony and they have a new pathway. I've had someone come out and they quit drinking, quit nicotine, quit alcohol, all in one sitting.
Wow.
So it's just like, but it's up to them. So it can be a really important inflection point if there's no follow-up or integration, because integration is the key. We've created these new ways of thinking, but at the same time, the default mode network is to go back. The roads that are the widest, the neural pathways that are the widest, are the ways to go back to the way that they've always thought, the way that they've always lived. But if we can create an integration plan, type out your transcript, and literally create a soul action plan and continue to think in that new way, then people will get out of it what they put in. But can you see miraculous things? Sure. We've seen big shifts happen. We've seen physical healings, things like that. Is that always happen? No, because it depends on that person and then the integration and how that person chooses to do with because like people can receive the information. It's up to them though to integrate it. So we just want to like give people the support and the tools that they need. And the cool thing about this is they can ride out their voice and bring that into the physical and integrate that. So once you know, you cannot not know, but it's really up to that person. And if they choose to integrate it, I mean, there's layers to consciousness, layers to this love, layers to this wisdom. Next time, if they decide, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper into your higher self. Integration is the key.
Sounds incredible. Yeah. And you actually have a retreat coming up, don't you, at some point? Is it in March?
Yeah, we're trying to do like monthly retreats. Most of all, I think just like private groups are starting to form. It's part of my calling to share this with people who are called.
Yeah. And so can people work with you? Does it need to be obviously if in person to have a ceremony, but do you work with people in other ways? Like can they Zoom with you, and are you doing sort of psychiatric sessions that way, or are you mainly focusing on ceremony only?
Very rarely do I take psychiatric patients anymore. I have to really resonate with their soul and really feel like we can work. Not everybody. I'm not meant to work with most psychiatric patients at this point in my career. So if they're like an advanced soul and I know I can help them and I'm aware that we have some type of a soul contract, then every once in a while I'll take on a one-to-one client. But that's very rare. I only do that every once in a while. But yeah, so it's mostly my just doing ceremonies and building out a new global paradigm of mental health. Like that's what really drives me is how can we build a system? Yes, eventually to reach everybody, but at this point, it's like, how can we, you build that a new way, a new system for people right now? So kind of focusing my energy there.
Yeah, amazing. So expanded. And soul contract, do you hear, I mean, this is across your life in every aspect when you meet people. Just because I know there are some people who are just sort of awakening to the idea of a soul contract. How do you know when a soul contract is being initiated for you?
That's a great question. I don't know. That's such an interesting question because I do think we can initiate new soul contracts in this lifetime. But I think there are a few that have been coming into my field lately, which I know to be karmic soul contracts. And so I think the goal of all of this is to strengthen that connection to your higher self, the goal of the ceremony, the goal of quantum morphogenetic physics, the goal of all of that, so that we can get into what is called direct cognition. How do you know? Because you know. It's just the knowing. You just know.
It's the knowing. Yeah.
You connect with your higher self, whatever your tool is, and you just know. I mean, and you learn to trust that. So I think it's direct cognition, strengthening that connection to your higher self. But also there's free will choice, and we can create new karma and create new how can I say, soul contracts in this lifetime too. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd never thought about the actual. I mean, I have. In retrospect, I have unknowingly created new soul contracts or recontracted with someone that the contract was up, and then I recontracted unknowingly. Yeah. And I guess those are all experiences, right? On that journey of consciousness.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'll reverse that question to you. How do you know when it's a soul contract?
Yeah. Do you know? It's interesting. Mainly, I know. Through the lovers and the big loves of my life. And there's this moment, and I can pinpoint it in every single relationship, where it's just a moment. And then suddenly I've felt it go into alignment, and I'm like, oh, we're on now. And there's like nothing is going to get either of us off this ride until it's organically meant to end. And I can literally pinpoint the moment. And they're not crazy romantic moments like we're in the middle of making love and I look into their eyes and suddenly I'm awakened to them. Yeah. They're like really mundane moments where it's like really mundane, and I'm like, bang, that was the moment when I contracted with you, and that was the moment when I contracted with you, and that was the moment when I contracted with you. It's really interesting.
It's like a moment of energetic alignment, which brings the energy and connection to your higher self in alignment, and you just know, like your higher self are connected, and you just know. Yeah.
Yep. And then I'm like, all right, I'm on this ride, and I'm on it until we die. No, until the contract dies.
But there is no death, Jacobs. There
is no death in this immortal life. Okay, I've got a question for you, because it's something there are very few people that I could ask this question to, but you might have some answer for me or understanding. What dimension did Jesus come from?
So, wow, you went there. Oh.
Okay. We don't. I'm just because I'm not super religious, but I do absolutely believe Jesus walked the earth, and I believe he's if we were alive in his time, he would be. And I was talking to him right now, the way I'm talking to you, I believe that he would be someone like you who was awakened to his purpose, and is like, I know what my purpose is here on the planet. And I'm bringing down this knowledge, and I'm here to do my mission. And of course, over time, he's just become this thing that is just magnified, and it feels almost untouchable. But I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure he's just someone like the rest of us, who a very, very old soul. Well, some of us aren't old souls, but I'm pretty sure he's someone that just came from the highest dimension, came down to like wake us the fuck up. But he was a human like the rest of us.
Yeah. I'm just gonna speak my truth here. Don't stone the messenger, because Jesus and me go way back. Like I fell in love with Jesus. Love songs, writing to Jesus all night, youth pastor, feeding the homeless, and then I asked the question, what did Jesus do from 12 to 30? There's nothing written in the Bible except he grew in wisdom and favor with stature with man and with God. And then he comes back at 30. He knows who he is. He knows what his mission is. He knows how to walk on water. He knows who his disciples are. And he didn't choose church boys to be his disciples. He chose tatted up fishermen who cussed. And then he knows how to turn water into wine. And then he also, the very religion he grew up in is the only people he ever criticized were the pastors from that religion. And then that very religion, he starts preaching a new message. And that very religion which he grew up in, supposedly according to certain records, kill him for that message. So I got very
Yeah.
curious. What did Jesus do from 12 to 30? And I started retracing those footsteps and literally following in the exact what I was finding, starting to open my mind to other perspectives. The yoga of Jesus. Oh, he was in Tibet as Master Isa. Oh, he was doing all these things. And then I found this eternal life wisdom. And so there were actually two Jesuses. The one that the Bible writes about is the ninth level avatar, who was on a realignment mission. So he was here. His ancestors, if you want to call it, his galactic family had made a deal to have an avatar, ninth level avatar board. And that's what it is. When you activate your ninth-stranded DNA, that means you're a ninth level avatar.
Okay.
And so, he was born. And after he was born, unfortunately, his ancestors pulled out of the pact of the Emerald Covenant. The Emerald Covenant means every single energy is going to have an opportunity to return to source, and it believes in the sacred law of one. We're all equal. We are all a part of source, and everybody has the right. But there are some off-planet, beings who don't follow that, and so his ancestors were originally a part of that, but they pulled out. And so, according to the eternal life wisdom, when you pray, who are you praying to, and who is feeding you the information, right? So there's been this whole conspiracy. The real message of the Christ is to look within you. You are who you've been looking for in the science of the 12-stranded DNA. That is the true 12th. There was also a 12th level avatar named Jeshua, who is the real Jesus, who came to realign the morphogenetic fields, which means if he realigns those fields, then all of humanity has a chance to be able to, no one's going to save anybody, but they're going to have a chance because the morphogenetic fields to quote unquote ascend out of Earth. And so that's what the 12th level avatar, not the Bible one. The Bible one is the 9th level avatar. The 12th level avatar Jeshua did, and he was a normal person, but he was an amazing teacher, 12th level avatar. The last one that I'm aware that walked this planet. And actually, J9, the biblical Bible, the Bible Jesus went to Egypt to learn from the 12th level avatar. And the 12th level avatar had left behind writings and things and teachings as well. But all of those were burned and covered up because there's been this huge conspiracy to try to get people to put power outside of themselves. Right. So when you're looking at a cross and you're looking at the cross and saying, this is going to save me, this is what saved me, you're putting your power where attention goes, energy flows, and it grows. So you're putting your energy outside of yourself and you're giving it to a guru, or you're giving it to this, whatever it is. And the true message of the Christ, the inner Christ, is that you are who you've been looking for. Take a look inside and you will find you are who you've been looking for the whole damn time, which is the science of the 12-stranded DNA. And so all of those records, a lot of them were burned. Alexandria, the human DNA was scrambled, and so Babel, and so so that humans are limited to a third dimensional memory when they're born, and they don't remember the blank slate technology, the beast. So all this wisdom goes into it. But like there were actually three Christs. The one who died on the. I'm not going to go into this because I don't know if how useful it is for people. But you're right. Yeah, they were here on soul contracts to help humanity. There was a 9th level avatar. There was a 12th level avatar. And the truth and the real message is, don't give your power outside of yourself. No one's going to come and save you. If you see a holographic insert of Jesus Christ coming back in the sky, know that anything that's giving your power away to something outside of yourself, you're giving your power away, and energy is neither created nor destroyed, which means there's elaborate feeding tubes which actually take this energy. So because there are beings who've cut themselves off from source through free will choice. And if you're disconnected from the source of all energy, then you need to feed off of other beings. You need to get energy from other people, right? And so you create these 80% truth, 20% distortion in the writings, and you falsify the history where there's a lot of truth in there, but there's like 15 to 20% distortion, which is trying to get people to put their power outside of themselves. And it's very, very deep. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but just to say
that was so juicy, and that was like so satisfying, and that was the closest that I've personally ever heard to something that I'm like, I could get on board with that.
Yeah. I mean, but imagine when my paradigm was blown apart. Oh my God, the Jesus I love, I sang to, I lived for, I breathed for, I died for, I became a youth pastor for, I devoted my life to, and I'm starting to learn all this other stuff. It wasn't easy. So I have a very soft spot in my heart for people who have been chosen to be brought up in religion, but also an understanding that the truth will set you free. And just to religion comes from the actual word legion. There were the 12 original celestial human tribes. That is where the 12 biblical tribes came from. They're based off of that. And once again, 80% truth, 20% distortion. So it's the truth is stranger than fiction. But the truth will set you free.
It's so cool. It's so cool. So what, as 3D humans, what level of DNA are we aware of, and is science kind of saying is important to us? Is it just the first 4 levels?
Yeah, so the 4th level, every DNA strand is a portal, right? It's also a chakra. And so many of us, when we sleep, it depends on what DNA strand you're creating and what your soul contract is. So many of us, when our sleep, our consciousness goes into the 4th dimension, which is the astral world. Right? Yeah. But there's a lower 4th astral world, which is where disembodied energies and entities are being recycled, and they need human bodies for energy because they don't have a body. So a lot of people who are doing unprotected plant medicine journeys or things like that are getting tagged. And I just want to touch on this just for a second because, once again, don't shoot the messenger, but like, everybody's saying like, open your heart, just open your heart, just open your heart. And I used to be one of those people, so I'm not judging. But remember, the heart is a portal to the 4th dimension, the astral world. And there is a lower 4th astral world, which has disembodied energies and entities. And there is an upper astral world. And then, so a lot of us, depending on if you're creating your 4th DNA strand, you're going to be spending a lot of time there, especially when you dream and sleep. But what I would say is open your heart instinctively and intuitively when your body knows that it's working with beings that only have your best interest in mind and that are love. I used to sit out there with free hug sign because I knew love was the answer. And I was like, I got to spread love. Free hug sign at the gas station. And I would hug everybody that would walk, and I'd come home and be like, holy shit, I got entities attached to me.
Yeah.
Right. And, and so it was like, okay, I had to learn the hard way. But I think most of humanity is right now accreting either the 3rd or 4th strand. But there are those people, indigo children, who come in already with 6 strands online. And I'm so happy that we're talking about this because remember, each DNA strand is a level of frequency and a level of perception. So these indigo children who are coming in with certain DNA, upper strand of DNA already activated, they can sense frequency that most humans cannot. And so when they sense these frequencies, the psychiatric system says, oh, you're hearing voices. Oh, something's wrong with you, because the system is designed to get people to fit in, not stand out.
Or ADHD and all of these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they put them on mind-numbing medications and eventually throw them into a hospital. And I used to go into these hospitals and I'm like, holy crap, like these kids are special. They're here to help humanity. But they just don't understand the science of the DNA. But yeah, I think there's, people are accreting whatever their soul frequencies are. And when you're doing that, you're going to, if you're accreting your 5th or 6th, maybe the Palladians will come in, whatever it is, because you're accreting that. But my whole theory, now that I know, I went through all that whole process. But now I'm like, yo, why don't you just run frequencies from 12 down in a very intelligent, organized fashion? Than trying to go
rather than going through the pain of the waking up and blasting all your paradigms apart as you go.
The Kundalini is 1 through 9. You're fast blasting it, and if there's a block in the chakra, all of a sudden you're having a crisis. It can get you ungrounded. It does it in a disorganized way. If you activate your upper strand of DNA before your lower, it can cause molecular compaction and crust, because higher frequency crust is lower. So my whole thing now is like, yo, your avatar inner Christos 12D self is so intelligent, it will never blast you. It will never, it will do it in an organized, gentle way, and it will only give you the frequency that your body is ready to carry. And why not go from 12 down rather than work from 4, 5, 6 up? And that's why this wisdom, every single technique on this wisdom is running from at least 12 down.
Yeah, wow. It's so exciting. And I'm just a word on entities, because when I do energy work, I'm constantly clearing entities out of other people's energy fields. And I think that is That's the biggest thing. It's learning once you become sensitive to energy, or even that's the first step, becoming sensitive to your energies and what you're taking on with other people, and then learning how to set protective boundaries and actually not opening yourself up to everybody, and understanding when something is a safe place and when it isn't a safe place. And yeah, I'm glad you touched on the entities thing, even though that's kind of, I feel like that's where people start to go, oh, okay, wow, now we're talking about like demons or all those kinds of things. But it's definitely out there in the energetics of the planet or the universe.
Yeah, 100%. And what is it? Is this podcast called Urban Ascension? Is it?
Well, that's the name of my business. The podcast.
Yeah.
The podcast is called The Healing Cocoon. The Healing Cocoon. But it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're hilarious.
My bad. But 100% energetic sensitivity is a gift eventually. And our first line of defense is our auric field. And especially when we're doing energy work, it's real. I mean, that's all I can say. It's for real. Yeah, it really is. This has been like, I feel like I could honestly go on forever, but maybe I'll bring you back on the podcast like down the track once you've expanded even more into this work, and we can have another like really juicy chat about all of this stuff, because this is fast becoming my jam. I didn't even know when I woke up this morning that this is where this conversation would be heading, and I'm so excited by it. So thank you for sharing your life's work. Thank you for having me. It's really cool to see you again, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you for supporting the Healing Cocoon podcast. It's your listening ears that make it all possible. What also makes it possible is if you rate, subscribe, and review the show. Reviews in particular are really cool, not only because they help our ratings, but also because I have no way of knowing how the podcast is positively impacting your life. So if you feel like sharing, please do. I would love to hear from you.